I don't know in Fahrenheit, but it's minus 15 Celsius. So I guess it's minus 1 or 2 Fahrenheit. I don't know.
Yeah, that's cold. That's a little cold.
And yeah, we are on a strict lockdown with a curfew, and it's pretty boring.
Wow. How long have you been locked down?
Oh, since we had ins and out, like this summer it was pretty good. We could go to the restaurants and bars a little, but as soon as the school reopened, we were just back to lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah. So we can't see anyone except our own people in your own house, for example.
Oh,
And you can go.
you're gonna really decide if you really like the person that you're with in that case.
For me, I think it's good. Yeah, it's a good.
Okay. You're one of the fortunate ones.
So Scott and I, we've been apart for like 5 months. It was fine too. I was no, I'm kidding. That's good.
You don't put that part in the interview. You'll just cut that one out.
I'm recording now, but I might cut this part.
Ah.
Much. I'm super happy to have you on my podcast. It's a new podcast, and you're gonna be on episode 1.
I'm one.
Number 1. Yeah, because it's a punk rock radio show. It's a punk rock podcast. So I thought it was a good idea because everyone still loves those Fat Records bands so much. So I was like, let's interview the engineer. So and
Yeah.
I remember when I visit your studio, you told me anytime if you want an interview. So I put it in my head, and 2 years 2 years after, here I am.
And I did, and I did say that, and I'm a man of my word.
Yeah. So I got some questions from the listeners, and it's a conversation. I just want to learn about your background.
Conversations I could do.
I don't know much about your story. I don't know anything about sound engineering, mixing, and I got a lot of technical questions from the listeners. So I will just listen to you and maybe learn one or two things.
If you could just shake your head and just go,
Yeah, uh-huh. Oh,
right, and then if anything you don't understand, do what I do. I go to YouTube and I find a 12-year-old that's doing it better than I can, and they could explain it better, and then that's how you learn.
my God, it's very interesting. You'll see
Right.
that. So yeah, my English is not perfect. I'm sorry. It's just I'm working on it.
Hey, I'm a work in progress as well. So
Oh, I think we could talk about before the Fat Records era. Like,
yeah.
what were you working on before that? How did you start first?
So I started doing live sound. That's kind of where everything started for me.
Mhm.
And that was back when I was 15, 16 years old with Dennis from 10 Foot Pole. His dad had a sound company in Simi Valley, and I met them at a park event, every Saturday night or Saturday at the park. And uh, after the concert, I went up to Dennis's dad and I asked if they needed any help. And I said, I'm really interested in all of this. And he started me wrapping cables. And Dennis, I think at like 13 or 14, he was already mixing monitors. He's like
Wow.
incredible. Yeah.
Really young. I know that, but I didn't
Yeah.
know his dad had a company. And oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that's kind of where it started. And then I graduated high school, and uh, a friend of mine got me a job. My friend John Pratt got me a job at the Troubadour in Hollywood
Mhm.
back in the let's just say early to mid 80s,
Oh,
uh, which is weird because I'm only 28, so I don't know how that happened, but that's a whole other story. So I started to do live sound, but I also wanted to go to recording school because during high school, my brother was going to recording school, and he would come home with all of his recording notes, and
oh,
I would study his notes and not do my homework, and then my brother would do my homework, and it was just kind of a funny thing. So it was always like something that I wanted to do. Also, I was a drummer
Mhm.
or wannabe drummer, and uh, it just seemed like it was the right path for me. So went to recording school, was uh, after the Troubadour, and then landed a job at MCA Music, and was a tape duplicator for a year, and then a year later, the chief engineer for MCA Music, Francis Buckley, came out to hear one of the live shows that I was mixing. And after the show, he comes up to me and he goes, that sounded like a record. And I said,
Oh,
I want to do records. And next thing you know, MCA Music opened up another recording studio. So they pulled me right from the recording or right from the tape duplicating job right into um, uh, right into engineering. There was no assistant. It was just you're going from here to here.
oh, so you had a
And
big.
there were things in and around that as well that helped lead to that. But the short version is that was kind of the path. And then I went from after about 3 or 4 years of engineering at MCA, um, I wanted to experience more in my life
Mhm.
and work with different people. So I contacted a friend of mine that worked over at the time it was a place called SBK Music, which then turned into EMI Music Publishing. That I contacted her and I said, "Oh, I'm looking to see if you may need a outside engineer for your studio." And she goes, "Well, we're not looking for an outside engineer, but we are looking for a chief engineer. You you interested in the job?" And I was like,
Yeah.
yes. So I interviewed with a woman named Pat Lucas, and we just hit it off. And uh, 3 weeks later, I was chief engineer for, at that time, SBK Music, that 2 years later it turned into EMI Music. And then after that, met, uh, a few years after that, Brett Gerwitz from Bad Religion ended up signing a publishing deal with EMI. He brought Bad Religion in, and he walked in. He's like, "Have you ever done punk rock before?" And I'm like, Clash ish kind of stuff. And he goes, "It's kind of like more pop." And
Yeah.
I'm like, No. And he goes, "Well, what kind of stuff do you do?" And I go, "Well, you know, Megadeth just left a couple weeks ago. So, and then before them, I was working with a hip hop group." Uh, and he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Oh, this will be fun." And he was not. He was not lying. So we ended up doing 3 songs that day: "Infected," "Incomplete," and "Stranger Than Fiction," which Brett sang, by the way,
Oh,
and killed it. It was so
really?
good. And so I mix it for him really quick, and he gave him his cassette. He left. I'm cleaning up the studio. He comes back 10 minutes later and he goes, I go, "Oh, he walks back in the room like, oh, did you forget something?" And he goes, "No." And he had a puzzled look on his face. He goes, "This is the best sounding thing we've ever done to date." He goes, "Do you do outside records?" And I go, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Great." He goes, "I have a band that I would like to hook you up with." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great." I mean, you hear it, being in the studio and you're working with people and you vibe and they're like, "Oh my God, you're great." And then they never call.
Yeah.
Brett called, and long story longer, 3 weeks later, I was in the studio with No Effects doing Punk and Drublic.
Oh, yeah. In 1990.
It was 94. Well, we did it, I think, in 90. We tracked it in 93. Came
Wow.
out in 94. Yeah.
So that's how you ended up working with Fat Record bands.
Yeah, because of Brett.
Wow. Oh, I knew there was a link with him at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, you know, it was, it was great. I mean, even with Brett and I, back in the day, I'd always pop over to Epitaph and just say hi. And I remember going over there once. It was right after Smash record came out for Offspring, and
Oh, yeah.
stopped by just to say hi. And Brett and I walked down to the liquor store because he wanted cereal.
Okay.
And right, and then on the
It's fine.
right, but on the way back, and we were just talking about because Epitaph just went from this small
Mhm.
label to this thing. So it was a super nice conversation. But they're all family. It's I think with this whole scene, everybody, no matter if somebody leaves or goes or this or that, at the end of the day, it's all a family.
Totally. Wow, that's amazing. And then you made a lot of records for Fat Records band, like No Fix, No Use for a Name, Lagwagon. I think it was like uh, a lot of years doing a lot of albums, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
were you always on the rush? Because I know that you recorded stuff in like 2 days sometimes or 3 days, like very short time of for doing a whole album at this time. Were you always on the rush?
Yeah, it was when I first started, I was still chief engineer at EMI. So I would take the first record I did was I think it was God and Country with the Good Riddance.
Mhm. Okay.
And Mike calls me um, right after we did the Punk and Joblick record, and he goes, "Hey, can I hire you to do a record?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure," because I could take if I find somebody to fill in my engineering job at EMI, I could go off and do outside records. That was the deal that I made with them. But I would still always do the taking care of the studio, managing all the under the hood
Mhm.
stuff that goes on. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, I get to go off and do 6 weeks doing a record. And he goes, well, uh, you know, how long do we have to do it? And he goes, 8 days. And I'm like, 8 days? 8 days to do how many songs? I can't remember if like 15, whatever it was. I'm
14
like,
was like 2 minute songs. It's not that bad.
right. But you know what's funny about that is it still takes almost the same amount of time to, you know, because I broke everything down when I ended up doing it was
Mhm.
um, click track, scratch guitar, and then have the drummer play. Sometimes not even the click track. I think back then they didn't know how to play to a click track.
Mhm.
So it would just be scratch guitar and drums. And then I would hear something that needed to be fixed. I would stop the 2-inch machine, roll back a little bit, have the drummer play along, give the direction of, maybe the fill should be something like this. They would, make adjustments, put the tape, play the tape machine, get to that part. Luke's playing guitar, punch into record, get the next section. Oh, he made a mistake. Okay, let's stop. Let's roll back. Uh, instead of maybe doing that beat, try this beat. Okay, here we go. Roll the tape machine, pop into record. And that's how a lot of this stuff was built back then. I was just punching in and out of record on 2-inch tape. And, you
Wow.
know, so, so first record was, to answer your question, that was long-winded, that
I love this conversation.
the you would track for, in that case, maybe track for 6 days and then you mix for 2 days.
Mhm.
So every song you may have 2 hours to mix, maybe. But if you think, if they have 16 songs, 2 hours a song, your days are really long. So, I've always mentioned that, during that time, you're working from 14 to 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, you finish that record. I went back to EMI.
Ooh.
Mike calls me again, uh, you know, and goes, "Hey, I have this other record." And it was No Use for a Name, I think, was the Leche record.
Mhm.
And we got a whopping, I think, 13 days to record that record. And same thing, record it, and record as much as you can as many hours as you because I'm in the chair producing, and we're just rotating out band members, so they could be sleeping for however long they want. And okay, you
Might be
Tony, time for you. Roy, it's time for you. It's just like, so we would just rotate out band members, and that's how we were doing it.
yeah, because those years were really productive for punk rock on Fat Records. So it was like you might have had a lot of job and not much sleep.
Yeah, it was. Uh, I mean, the normal hours. Once I ended up moving up there, because Mike eventually ended up calling me and said, "Hey, just want you to do all the bands on the record. Would you be willing to leave EMI?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure. I'll give it a go. I'm adventurous."
Yeah.
And EMI was a fantastic job. I mean, you were working with the best of the best, like the songwriters and the players, the whole thing. I mean, it was it
Yeah.
was just an amazing experience, and helped build the studio. That it was amazing. But this was more of an adventure. It's like, okay, let's just see what happens. And you know
When I was asking the listener for some questions, a lot of people just told me that you created a legendary sound for punk rock. Someone said you created a sound that saved us all.
wow.
And I think it's amazing. And yeah, and at the time when, for example, when Fat Mike told you you want to be our producer, etc., did you have this sound in mind and you were like, okay, I'm gonna do something like that. I have a, you know what I mean? My English.
No, no, it was. I wish I was that intuitive.
Mhm.
Um, when I will tell you, to backtrack just a little bit, before I started Punk and Drublick, and I met with Brett first about the band, and then Fat Mike and I chatted on the phone. I thought no effects meant you're not allowed to use any effects. No reverbs, no delays. The band didn't like any effects.
Super rough.
So no effects. So that's, of course, me being an engineer. So I spent 2 weeks thinking, how am I going to I hope the room that we're recording in is really good. So at least you could use the room ambience, but no. Okay. Anyhow, um, then I soon learned that uh, that was not the case. But no, I'm one that uh, if you're doing a record and somebody goes, I want it to sound like this,
Mhm.
or I want it to sound like this, or it has to sound like this, or it has to sound like that, I feel that in a way you're not letting the music speak.
Mhm.
You're already putting the music in a box. How about let's see what happens. Let's tweak this knob. Let's turn this up. Let's run this guitar pedal on this, and let's create something that's unique, that represents what the band is and what you're doing and what that story is and you're telling in the song. It's like, you know, it's not about the best sound, it's about the right sound.
Oh yeah.
So, and it doesn't not everything has to have a perfect snare or a guitar or this or that. It just has to be right and has to make you feel something. When you listen to something, it should make you feel happy or sad or pissed off, or I want to drive 100 fucking miles an hour. And
Especially with punk rock, we need
yeah,
emotions all the time. We absolutely need this.
yeah, and that's what I feel that we were all creating during that time was um, because the guitar tones, even on Punk and Drublick, weren't even their amps. I just worked with the band Europe, uh, and they used I think head Marshall 10 and cabinet number 13 that they rented for the session. And Hefe's equipment didn't sound very good, and we had to think fast. So I called SIR and I was like, I need head 10, cabinet 13 delivered here now, because we didn't have a time. And then Hefe's guitar was, they, just got off the road. They're a punk rock band. It's like things just weren't working, and we didn't have a lot of time to figure it out. So I had a friend of mine bring over some guitars, and Hefe found a guitar that he liked, and we plugged in this Marshall and mic'd it up, and it's just like, looking at the time going, okay, I think we have like 17 songs and we only have like 12 days to track it, 3 days to mix it. Let's go. So with
Wow.
that respect, a lot of it was no, did not plan it out. I will never ever plan out, this is what a record should sound like. You should capture the band, you should capture the essence of who they are, not being afraid to experiment, but give it something signature. So at least when you hear a guitar or um, you know, drums, or you already know the singer, but something that's not something that's recognizable. You always knew that, oh, that sounds like Eddie Van Halen. Oh, that sounds like Slash. Everybody had a signature thing, and it felt that every band should have a signature
So,
something about them. Otherwise, it's like what the radio is now. You don't know who it is until the singer comes in.
mm, mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, good point. Yeah. Wow. A lot of people asked me to ask you, how was it to work with Tony Sly and No Use for a Name?
Tony Tony was fantastic. And this is like from day one. Tony is really, really meticulous, and he was very you know, I think just as an overall blanket, he was very very aware of his songs, both lyrically but also musically. I mean, he would write, write. Every so often he would send demos. We would get on the phone, and getting on the phone really kind of came um, after the second record. Tony and I, they would disappear for like a 2 years writing and whatnot. And Tony would call me every so often and just be like, "Man, I'm trying to write and not feeling." We would just have conversations and became friends. I don't think a lot of the band members knew how close Tony and I were,
Mm.
um, but uh, it was always a good relationship. Um, making the record "Making Friends" was actually making enemies for us, because uh, we all disagreed. They all disagreed with me, um, and we had huge debates. And a, a few months after the record was finished and put out, Tony actually called me out of the blue, and he goes, "I am really sorry. You were 100% right.
Oh,
Now that I'm listening to the record, you were right. We were so focused on this one thing, we didn't see this over here." And he goes, "I'm really, really sorry. It was rough. We went through uh, a time where it almost seemed like nobody was talking to me."
oh, so sorry.
But no, but it's like, the thing is that good things came out of it as well.
One was just overwhelmed with, I don't know, the maybe the stress, the pressure. I don't know. Not from you, but for releasing the album or something.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's I think there's so many dynamics that go into making a record. So uh, it's like when you read reviews and things like that. It's like, you know what, you with a typewriter and a keyboard that could say all these things, whether positive or negative,
Mm.
have no idea what is happening in the studio
Oh,
during that time. You have no idea, and you're making comments and judgments about this or that, and not just taking a second to listen to what somebody has to say,
mm,
and taking it as, oh, this is you know this is what it was meant to sound like, or this is what he meant to say. It's all of this.
wow.
So yeah, but Tony, you know, Tony was amazing. I mean, even I think I saw him, probably 5, 6 months before he passed, and you know, he just wanted to, he wanted to be a songwriter. He was asking me if I knew publishing companies that he could just be a songwriter on the side, just write songs. He loved it. Just he had a passion for it.
Yeah, I used to put so much emotions in this song. Louis for Name was after like the Blink 182 or Green Day sound. No Use for a Name was probably the first punk rock band I got into back in the days. Yeah.
What was your first record that you listened to
You mean
for no with
or
no use?
Making Friends?
Making Friends. Ah, the Making Enemies. Nice one.
My favorite. So that's why I laugh
Uh,
because the pun was great. Making friends. No, it was more like making enemies.
we joke about it. I mean, but, anytime I see Matt, it's yeah, Making Enemies.
The last show ever of No Use for a Name was in Quebec City shortly after he passed away, and it was so emotional. Like it was it was raining, everyone was crying. Joy Cape was singing with some people from bands, from local bands here. That was hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine it was hard for you. I didn't know him personally, but I can't imagine what it was for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard. Again, the last time that we hung out was, you know, uh, he was tired. He was, the touring and everything. Uh, you know, he was just. I just want to spend time with my family. I love touring. I love, not taking away anything from that, but just emotionally, really just wanted to be a songwriter. He
Mm.
was good at it.
So after this Making Enemies album, you made other records for them. And
Yes. Yeah.
how was it the next times?
Oh, it was great. I mean, and that's kind of the thing. And but it's something that I really believe in as well. It's like just because you disagree with something or someone, that get over it, be an adult. And we were, it's just like that was a moment in time. We may get into a huge debate and be so upset at someone, but you know what? Step back for a little bit and realize, wow, you know what? Though we disagreed on this one thing, but all this greatness that we've done together, are we going to let that one thing? Come on. And that's how I think just life should be in general. You know,
I know. For any
so
kind of relationships, we have to put our ego aside really often. I know that.
yeah, well said. Yeah,
Ah, wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
Someone asked me if it's Stefan. He wants to know if you remember using an unusual recording techniques for all those bands in the 90s, or like, I don't know. You
It was
moment where when you had to be very creative because you didn't know what to do for a specific sound and you
uh, because of how I was brought up. Where working at MCA and EMI, you would have people coming in, and you have to understand, these were the top session players in the world. So they would walk in with their, whatever they were doing, keyboards or this or that, and you'd plug it in, and they would just sound amazing, right? When you get into working with bands, you know, bands are playing with, a lot more emotion and just angst. So for me, I just looked at how somebody was playing and was like, oh, okay, well, they're just doing that. So, let's see if we just do this. And nothing to me seemed unusual. It
Mhm.
was just all like, well, if this doesn't work, we'll do this. If this doesn't work, we do this. I always had there was always something that we could do. Last resort is you're not playing on your record. So, I mean, that's last resort. But, really, I mean, I've heard some crazy stories from people that, uh, the funniest one, I was working with a band, and um, the drummer, I mean, everybody was in the control room, and it was time for the drummer to go play. And as I'm walking him to the tracking room,
Yeah.
he stopped at the door and he goes, "Are you going to blindfold me?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Are you going to blindfold me?" He goes, I go, "Why would I do that?" He goes, "Oh, I heard that you don't want anybody to look at your setup, so you blindfold the drummer and you turn off the lights."
Honestly,
I'm
I
like,
thought it was an English expression, and I was like, I don't know this expression, but it's literally
I was like, "What the?" Whoever comes up with these things has a way better imagination than I do. I mean, really, it's just like
oh.
so. I think the funny thing was with all of that was there were certain things that I would do to be able to capture
Mhm,
things. It was not out of the ordinary of what other people do, but coming from uh, a bit of a metal background and hard rock, that this was like pop punk was pop music twice as fast. So I just worked on techniques on how to tighten up things
mhm,
and try to do it naturally, so it didn't have to be done in the mix part of it, because the mix, as we know, that you have 3 days to mix 17 songs and you don't have a lot of time to fix it. So I wanted to try um, to work with things. It's like guitar player, strings are just noisy and ringing, then I'd put a little piece of foam in the back, just to taper it down just enough that when he was switching chords, it just becomes a little tighter
yeah.
and a little clearer. Um, you know, whatever the tempos of the songs, I would tune the drums and try to get the extension of the toms tuned down so it doesn't sound just dead, but it has extension, but it drops off. So a lot of these things, I would just do inherently and not really think about it, but it was all part of the process. Same thing with the kick drum. Like, okay, how fast is the song? Okay, well, need to figure out a way to pad it, giving the drummer his sound, but be able to get it cleared up to a point where when it came time for the mix, I wasn't fixing, I was mixing.
Mm. I also want to know, in general, with punk rock bands, what is the more fun things about working with punk rock bands, the most easy thing and the harder things when you work with punk rock specifically in that time?
Uh, yeah, I think that I think that whether I think it's like with any band, uh, it's really just the dynamic. It's really learning the dynamic of what the band is about, and you chameleon to that, um, to get inside of what they're doing, and which in turn helps uh, make a positive record experience. But the um, I think on the playing part of it, because there again, we'll just start on the basics like drums. A lot of drummers that just bash. Well, bashing, you would think, sounds energetic and exciting, but a lot of times when you try to capture that, it and you're playing at 180 to 200 beats a minute, that doesn't sound good. So it is going uh, trying to help them work on techniques to be able to get across what they're looking to get across. But let's change your setup a little bit so you're able to do that, and then we're able to capture it properly and work with work with how they're doing something. And guitar players that just you know with and they're good players, but they're just bashing and things are out of tune everywhere. And it's like, okay, we're going to change, as easy as changing your string gauge or a lighter pick or something, to still so they're allowing them to do what they would do, but just to help, help what they're doing get across. Um,
Sometimes it's just little details that we
it,
don't
it,
think about.
yeah, it is, and then it's also just trying to let everybody know it's okay to be honest.
Mhm.
Because I think when you're in that situation, nobody wants to offend anyone.
Yeah.
But you know, I'd much rather that if
Enemies. They want to
I'm,
make. They don't want to make.
Right? Yeah. uh, it's yeah, it's you know, I just found that, just be honest. And sometimes that honesty may hurt, but if you don't have an ego, then it's really just being understanding to what they're looking for. And they may in turn look at me and go, you know, you know, half of us like this, half of us like that. What do we do? And I said, okay, how about if we take both halves and then just do this?
Mhm.
Then you become the problem solver, and trying to, of course, making things better and better for the time that we had to do it. But it is just trying to keep the honesty, because when you hear things like a week later or 2 weeks later, it pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty nice in the studio, but the other end of me is that we don't have time for the bullshit.
Mhm.
We don't have extended budgets. We are on a really, really limited time. So everybody better be well rested, because I'm going to beat the shit out of you. And uh, and you better be honest. If we're getting up a guitar tone and you don't like it, say you don't like it. I don't care if I'm 10 seconds into tweaking knobs. Tell me you don't like it. And then I'll tell you to shut up, give me another 30 seconds. And then if we don't like it, then we'll move forward. But we just always had to have that communication, which is why we all were able to hang out
Yeah.
as friends after. We could go through the hardest records and still come out of it, and and know that, what, I always know that if I call you, if I have a problem, and you're going to have my back.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Wow. I think it's a very good advice you just tell. If people have bands and they want some advice, I think this is one of the best thing. Yeah, to say thing, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. And no, just, you have to let the, drop the ego.
Mhm.
That and and we all have one.
Ego, and
you
I
know.
would say also to be patient with ourselves, because I like to sing, and
Yeah.
when I record my voice, sometimes I get really pissed at myself. I will never be mad at the people who's recording me, but I will be like, I suck. Ah. So we have to put this aside too, I guess.
Right. It's that's it is. It all works together.
Mm, wow,
You know.
that's.
So
I have some very technical questions that I don't know anything about, but a lot of
okay.
people talk to me about your kick drum sound, that famous sound you you put into the all those records.
Yes.
Know your secret.
So
About it a little before, but
yeah, I think that I mean, again, going into the punk rock thing, when I worked with Bad Religion was my first experience.
but
Well,
also a drummer. We have to.
yeah, but you know, when I did the demo stuff for the Stranger in Fiction record, Bad Religion wasn't a fast band.
Mhm.
No Effects is a fast band. So, my approach was, when it came to the drum part of it, I was just going to approach it more like a speed metal band.
Oh,
And if you didn't work with a speed metal band, then you might be a little like, okay, well, then how do they do that? So uh, they make these. At one point, I was going with a super clicky bass drum sound, and which is very metal, and then just adding a ton of bottom end to it, and try to get the perfect mixture between the attack so you could hear it, bottom end so you could at least feel it a little bit, but not being overwhelming to the track. Because when you have something going do that, do that, do that, do that, that's a lot of bass drums. That bottom end takes up a lot of room.
okay.
So it's trying to make it as again, it goes back to the tuning, making it as short as you can, the extension, because if you don't have anything in a bass drum, it's going to go do, do. And then you put a little pillow in there and it'll go do. And then you put a little bit more and it'll get shorter. But if you come, do different techniques. There was one that, I wanted to do something different. So we went out and bought like 10 bags of cotton balls and put all the cotton balls. I think that might have been for a propaganda record, but put cotton balls in the kick drum because it created a certain thing. And then I, had these little Danmar pads that had a little metal puck in them, and would put that on the bass drum, and then you would listen to it in the control room, go, oh, okay, nope, too many cotton balls. Run out there, grab a handful of cotton balls, throw them on the floor, run back in. Oh, nope, too many cotton balls. Going out, grab it, or shredded newspaper. So there was just just trying to be as creative as you can during the time that you had to do it. But I think the funniest one was the No Use for a Name, Leche Con Carne record was Guitar Center didn't have any of those pads that I would normally use. So I was like, well, it's going to be part of the sound, need that. So I went next door to the liquor store and bought a bunch of silver dollars and then taped the silver dollar to the kick drum. So the beater would hit the silver dollar.
Oh yeah.
And then, right? So, after a while, the silver dollar would get bent, and then you would pull another silver dollar out and replace it. Let me tell you, that was probably their most expensive record.
Oh God.
But so there was like, it's those kind of those techniques, and it was a thing. Some people really liked it, some people couldn't stand it, but it was again, trying to create something identifiable for the bands, whether they knew it or not, and enable them to play super fast, and you're able to hear the bass drum, but doesn't get in the way of anything.
Well, that's the secret, guys.
There you go.
Amazing. And well, it's pandemic and a lot of people wants to start their own home studio. I did too. Okay, I had I didn't do it. Scott did it, but his things. But some people wants to start with nothing. What gear would you recommend to have for a decent price, a pretty good sound for home studio?
I guess it depends on what they're doing. I'm fortunate to have, a studio that you've seen.
Yeah.
And,
impressive.
But, doing something at home, are you going to be doing drums? Are you going to do drums somewhere else and then come back home?
I don't know.
It's there are so many companies, I think at this point, like Apogee makes these all in one units all sound okay. They really do. There's really no unless you start getting into the really pricey stuff, which people don't want to do. But if you're doing like vocals at home,
vocals, guitar, just most style.
You know what? So people are going to disagree with this, but
we just have to put our ego aside. We won't disagree too much.
No, it's like you could go out. It's like I probably have $80,000 or $90,000 worth of microphones, right? So you could have a C12 that's $10,000 or $12,000, and a 251 that's another $10,000. Or you could go out and Stephen Slate, your company should give me all of these things for free for promoting you, by the way. That you could go out and buy these modeling mics, and I have put them up against a $10,000 mic, and they sound at least they're 90% there. And that 90% you're not going to hear when you have a screaming guitar or something over the top of it. But it gives the people that are doing it from home to be able to have all these different mic models of all these expensive microphones to help them create and hopefully inspire themselves to doing something. It's like, oh, if I use this mic, it makes my voice sound this way. And if I switch it to here, and people start getting creative and want people to, the best thing about home recording is you can be as creative as you want. It's not costing you any studio time. Right. So, go out and get yourself the Slate modeling mic and, their little preamp. And, SSL just came out with their 2+ little 2x2 thing. Sounds pretty good for $300.
Good.
Like you can, and Apogee has stuff. And, I would say, you look at those things, but at the end of the day, you have to know what it sounds like.
Mm.
And, it's what's better, getting a really high-end converter or getting some really good speakers.
So you
And,
have to experiment and see.
so I think that, get, save up for a really good pair of speakers, and then you get something that's that mid-level, and then be able to hear things and start getting used to it, because that's going to be the thing. Your ears are going to always change, always.
So
You
true.
know, mine are still changing. It's just like, one day I'll hear something, I won't hear this one thing, and the next thing it's just like, where did that? I never heard that before. So, uh, having a good set of monitors is, to me, very, very important, along with something that's a little bit more higher quality than like a Focusrite. You know.
Wow. Okay, and now what are you working on these days? What have you been working on these days?
So
Kind of projects?
yeah, it's so my life has changed a little bit as of 3 years ago. So still doing records, uh, doing quite a bit of mixing, which I love. Bands will just send me things to mix, and you know,
Yeah.
I love that. Um, but about 3 years ago, I ended up getting a freelance job over at Nickelodeon,
Mm?
and I now record the voiceover actors.
Oh,
So
nice.
working on shows like SpongeBob and
Ah,
Loud House and Casa Grandes and Blaze. So uh, it makes you feel like a kid again.
yeah,
Uh,
totally.
Yeah, it's but in the energy and the talent that these people have when they're doing this. I was never a good reader. I'm dyslexic. So um, every day you go to work, you have a cast of people and they're reading you a story.
Wow.
And they're so good, and the voice directors are so detailed in how they do things, and you're capturing all of this. And it is
The story, like right now.
yeah, and it's so energizing for me, because doing the records, I have to get into like a fifth or sixth record for someone that the energy may not be there, and as a producer, you try to put out as much energy to get people to give it back to you, and when that doesn't get back to you, you kind of leaves yourself a little bit drained.
Yeah.
The Nickelodeon job, you walk out of a room with way more energy than you walked into the room with. And that's inspiring. It was just like when we started, years ago in the punk rock world in, 93, 94, that everybody was excited. And they're, all this like, yes, yes, yes. So, so that's what really now my day job has been for the last 3 years. I'm now full time over there, and now I use my studio for the projects that I really want to do.
Yeah.
So I've that doesn't mean for free, but I am able to work work deals, and um, and really dive into the things with people
Mhm.
and friends that just want to do something creative. It's like the last 10-foot pole record.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just do something. Dennis wanted to do something completely different. All right, then if we're gonna do it, let's just go so far in the most ridiculous direction
Mhm.
and just do it. Because then your next record you could always go and do something else. And it was so much fun. It was it didn't take any energy because it felt like uh it's like Scott would come in and do guitars, and it was just like, and then he would go, maybe we could change that. Yeah, let's try changing it. You know, okay, well, if we change it though, the bass is going to have to change. It's like, that's okay. We haven't done bass yet. So no, Dennis wasn't married to anything except for
Well, he also
his.
wanted to try more creative stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's what he was. Yeah, that's what he was looking for, was
You were on the
creative.
same page for this. That was great.
Yeah. So so projects like that are fun. So I think at this point, uh, you know, to do a band from top to bottom, for me, they would have to be it would have to be the right energy between us to be able to do that. It's going to take longer because my work schedule is a little longer, but I have from 7 until 3 in the morning. So we could do that and weekends and whatnot. But uh, I really just would like to work with people that are excited to be in the studio and be able to create and be able to inspire, and not just them inspiring me or me inspiring them. It's the whole room feels like they could say whatever they want and really just dive in, and not, well, this is a metal band, so it has to sound metal. It's just like, oh my God, is there a book that it says that it has to be, so, that punk rock has to sound like this and metal has to sound like this? How about just letting music be music,
Oh yeah.
and play it in the style that you would play it, and then let the songs breathe instead of constricting?
Wow. Nice. And I got just maybe a last question for you. A lot of people ask me, what?
Well, I'm single, and I heard that Canada has great health insurance.
Yeah, free of.
So I'm just saying, just putting it out there.
That's a nice fun fact about you.
Right?
Who would be your dream artist or band to work with? Like alive or not? No, let's say alive.
Alive.
Some hope.
Ah, you know,
And like this, maybe this artist you think I could do this and it would be even better.
yeah, see, and I would look at it that I would just love to like sit in a room and be a part of uh like uh like an Elton John record,
Hmm.
with all that creativity and all the talent. Um uh you know, I I always wanted to do a Van Halen record with Sammy singing. When Sammy started to sing for the band, and I have a really good uh, Dave story who inspired me. But you know, when I heard Sammy singing with Van Halen, I really wanted to do a record with them. That's kind of like it was in my back pocket. Oh my God, that would be so much fun. Uh, but I really feel, I think, fortunate in my career that I started off in the R&B world. So I worked with just Pat of the Bell and Gladys Knight and Vesta Williams, and kind of went through all of that. And then with the rock world, I've worked with a lot of people in the rock world, and in the punk rock world, and did Guitar Hero 3 through 7, all those re-records, and that was just like fun because you're having to recreate what the originals did and figure it out. So I I feel so fortunate and blessed that I was able to do all of these these crazy things. You know, my old manager said, "You've lived 4 careers."
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like I've done enough. But I feel like, you know, I have been fortunate enough to go from genre to genre and be able to understand it and get it. You know, it's like, you know, one day you're doing a rock band, next day, you know, you're in doing vocals with Jay-Z. So it's being able to cross over like that is um, I don't know how it happened with me. I'm not going to question it. It was maybe my path to go through all of these things, and I would not change anything. Where I started, and now being at Nickelodeon, and that journey, and how everything attached, and still being able to do the bands that I would love to do.
Wow.
What else is there except getting good health insurance?
You're right.
Uh,
But yeah, you have an impressive background, and I'm happy that you still feel like you're exactly at the right place today, and like it's
we all are. I mean, you know, whether good or bad, you know, we are where we need to be. And sometimes, you know, when things are going bad and you're a part of that, maybe it's not about you. So maybe drop the ego and go, okay, this is bad, but maybe there's something behind it that has meaning for somebody else. So you're just a part of that, you know, that moment in time. But think about it in a moment of time. It's not absolute. You know, this just happened.
mm,
Okay, what do we learn from this, and how do we move forward and make us a better version of ourselves? So, and that's no different than when you go in and do a record. We're just, you know, all becoming better versions of ourselves. When it's like Russ from Good Riddance came up to me. I think it was back in 2005 or so. We were at a show, and he said, um, and when it came out of Russ's mouth, I was a little jaw dropped because Russ is uh, uh, he's so like just straight and direct. But he's like, just want to let you know, we wouldn't be able to make the records we do today if it wasn't for everything that we learned from you in the past. So thank you.
oh,
And emotionally, that was one of the nicest things I've ever heard, because that's all we've ever tried to do, when we work together, is we inspire each other to push each other and try to break that ceiling of, yeah, but it can only go to here. Well, but if you work a little harder, you can move it up. And I don't know, it's a pretty fantastic when you work with people and you see everybody growing in the room,
wow.
because then at that point, there are no limits. The only limits are the ones that we put on ourselves.
So true. I think it's gonna be the title of the episode.
Right.
There you go. I don't know. I'll choose. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your time. It was an amazing conversation. I think we could talk still for hours. Maybe we're gonna do a part 2 someday.
You let me know when.
Thank you, and enjoy life.
Thank you so much. You too. It's good to see you.
I wish I could visit again someday. I miss California.
Yeah, it'll happen. Probably in 2022.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, come on by.